January 6th on Channel 2. Season's greetings from WKRN Channel 2.
In Moscow, the hammer and sickle is lowered for the last time, and an era comes to an end.
Я прекращаю свою деятельность.
I am ceasing my activities in the post of President of the USSR.
The tricolor banner of the Russian Republic now flies over the Kremlin. And from the White House, President Bush salutes the man who presided over the end of the Soviet Union.
His legacy guarantees him an honored place in history and provides a solid basis for the United States to work in equally constructive ways with his successors.
And tonight, Ted Koppel reports from Moscow about his extraordinary behind-the-scenes look at Mikhail Gorbachev's final hours in office.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
Mikhail Gorbachev said it best today, just moments before he resigned his post as the last president of the Soviet Union. If you have to go, you have to go. It's that time, he said. Time for Gorbachev's departure, but of greater importance, time for the end of a state that in its brief 74 years had murdered and oppressed its own people, enslaved other countries, and threatened the peace, the very existence of the whole world. On this day of historic change, Ted Koppel watched the transition from the inside. He joins us now from Moscow. Ted, you spent most of the day with Gorbachev, both in public and in private. What's the strongest impression you came away with?
Well, I must tell you, Sam, the strongest impression I got is of a man who is at peace with himself, who, as he told me this morning, has gone through the most difficult psychological aspect of a tough decision, and that is the decision-making process. Once he had made the decision to leave, once he decided to resign, he has been remarkably tranquil, and I've seen him at least half a dozen times over the past week. And we have spent, I guess, the better part of 3 hours together over that time. And I'm just astonished at well, I was going to say passivity of the man. That's the wrong word to describe Mikhail Gorbachev, but perhaps tranquility is an appropriate word. He is a man who is at peace with himself, at peace with what he has done over the past few years, and at peace with the message that he delivered today to the, I was going to say the Soviet people, to the Russian people.
Наверняка каких-то ошибок можно было бы избежать.
No doubt it might have been possible to avoid many mistakes, to have done much in a better way, but I am sure that sooner or later our common joint efforts will yield their fruit. Our peoples will live in a prosperous and democratic society. I wish all of you the very best.
In a curious way, Mikhail Gorbachev is, to this very day, a much more popular figure overseas than he is here in his own country. So it is with, I guess, some apprehension that John Donovan went out today to get the reaction of Muscovites to the resignation of the man who has been the president of the Soviet Union for the past 6 years.
When Mikhail Gorbachev's face appeared on the TV set at Moscow's Byelorussiya train station tonight, some people looked up and listened. Some people deliberately did not. But most, it seemed, had their minds somewhere else, catching the train, getting dinner, getting home. The events that most of the world calls the end of an era, Gorbachev's resignation, and the last lowering of the Soviet flag that flew over the Kremlin dome, were mourned by few of the people who had passed their lives under that flag. It is difficult to pinpoint when exactly the people of this country wrote off Gorbachev. Obviously, it was after they realized they didn't have to fear him, and probably around the time they began to think that his attempts at economic reform had made their living standards worse rather than better. On his last day in office, it seemed that his own people had stopped giving much thought to Gorbachev a long time ago. Beneath these mammoth gates that Stalin built to last forever, leading to a park that celebrates all the Soviet Union would ever achieve in the fields of science and agriculture and engineering, the ticket taker did not even want to talk about Gorbachev today. Don't ask, she shouted, and then went on to curse the good-for-nothing foreigners bothering her with questions. Her colleague, who has worked this gate since 1957, was not so hot-headed, but she was against Gorbachev. Good that he resigned, she said. It's his fault that everything here has collapsed. What we heard over and over today from colleagues Gennady and Ivan, from soldiers Kostya and Pasha, from close friends Valery and Luda, was that Gorbachev had done them some good a long time ago. 3 years ago, says Valery, I'd have told you I liked him. He changed a lot in the world, Luda says, but not here. He hasn't done anything for us. But once people thought about it, they admitted that Gorbachev had opened their lives in many ways, that even if they may be afraid of running short of food or fuel this winter, they no longer are afraid of their government and its police. They can criticize their leaders, turn them into dolls if they want to, and that is mostly a good thing, although today the street sellers complained that the Gorbachev model isn't selling as well as it used to. Thanks to Gorbachev, Moscow bookstores have real current event sections and political science departments, where, it turns out, Gorbachev's writings remain on sale, and according to this saleswoman, still sell well. But Gorbachev was always popular with his country's more educated people, the playwrights and the novelists, whom he rescued from censorship.
I wouldn't say that he's very popular. On the contrary, he's completely unpopular. But at the same time, I think when in 5, 10, 20 years, he will be greeted as Peter the Great or Alexander II, I mean, the best Russian tsars.
It was not only in the libraries of intellectuals that we found such sentiment. This man on the cigarette line said, democracy did not start with Yeltsin, it started with Gorbachev. If there had not been a Gorbachev, there would never have been a Yeltsin.
Теперь кнопка на ядерном оружии уже у Ельцина.
The nuclear button is now already with Yeltsin.
Yeltsin, who from today not only heads Russia, but also controls all of the old Soviet Union's arsenal of nuclear missiles, and whose team has to weigh the meaning of a Gorbachev out of power.
It looks like he plans to be in opposition. We were opposition to him, and he now plans, this is my feeling.
Tonight he signed away his power, and without it, it may be that Gorbachev will never again walk with footsteps that shake the globe. But today, even people opposed to Gorbachev declared that he had earned his place in history. On this night, when they raised the flag of Russia over the Kremlin, one woman said of Gorbachev, I will never forget his years in power. They were the best and the worst of my life. John Donovan for Nightline in Moscow.
During Gorbachev's years in power, there was a drastic change in the way he was viewed by the U.S. and by George Bush. In 1989, Mr. Bush's spokesman denounced Mr. Gorbachev, calling him a drugstore cowboy whose promises to end military aid to Nicaragua were not to be trusted. Less than 2 years later, the president was praising Gorbachev as an ally in the fight to reduce nuclear weapons. And tonight, Mr. Bush cut short his holiday at Camp David for a nationally televised speech paying homage to the Soviet Union's final leader. ABC's Ann Compton is at the White House.
The day's historic events brought President Bush a Christmas present he could not have imagined even weeks ago. In fact, he found them so compelling, he returned to the White House just long enough to address the American people and tell them their most formidable enemy no longer exists.
The Soviet Union itself is no more. This is a victory for democracy and freedom. I'd like to express on behalf of the American people my gratitude to Mikhail Gorbachev for years of sustained commitment to world peace and for his intellect, vision, and courage.
President Bush turned to the political reality ahead, granting formal diplomatic recognition to the largest republic, which will fill much of the void left by Gorbachev and the old Soviet government.
The United States recognizes and welcomes the emergence of a free, independent, and democratic Russia led by its courageous president, Boris Yeltsin. Our embassy in Moscow will remain there, as our embassy to Russia. We will support Russia's assumption of the USSR's seat as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council.
And the president went on to offer full diplomatic recognition to all the Soviet republics. The offer is effective immediately for 5 republics, including Ukraine, which have already made specific guarantees to the United States about the safety of nuclear weapons and transforming their markets into free markets. The other 6 republics, including Georgia, will be recognized when they do the same. President Bush then abandoned the word Soviet and spoke of helping the new Commonwealth of Independent States. But he clearly knew he will find very limited patience at home for spending abroad.
These dramatic events come at a time when Americans are also facing challenges here at home. I know that for many of you, these are difficult times, and I want all Americans to know that I'm committed to attacking our economic problems at home with the same determination we brought to winning the Cold War.
After his address to the nation, President Bush returned to Camp David, but he said he made the special effort to come down here tonight because he has now witnessed one of the greatest dramas of the 20th century. Sam?
Thank you, Ann. When we come back, we'll be joined again by Ted Koppel in Moscow.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by General Electric.
The people of Tokyo, like people everywhere, know their future depends upon getting more electricity in a cleaner, more economical way. To get it, they turn to GE, the world leader in gas and steam turbine technology. When Tokyo Electric Power gave GE our largest export order ever, it gave Tokyo the largest, most efficient power plant of its kind in the world, which means more jobs for our people back home and a better future for the people of Japan.
Volunteers are needed for these. The Tennessee Department of Youth Development is in need of volunteers in the Bellevue area to tutor students in science. Volunteers are needed by the Community Help Center in Mount Juliet to help sort clothing, prepare food boxes, and assist with general maintenance. Waves Incorporated needs volunteers to work one-on-one with autistic clients and in the geriatric unit to help with craft and exercise programs. Travelers Rest Historic House needs volunteers to help with the 12th night celebration scheduled for January 5th. Call 832-8219 to volunteer. Cumberland Crisis Pregnancy Center provides pregnancy testing, counseling, and other services to women in need of help. They need volunteers to help in the office or to train to become counselors. If you are a nonprofit organization and need volunteers, write to WKRN at this address or call 256-8272.
Gorbachev spends his final days at the Kremlin with Ted Koppel and offers extraordinary exclusive access to ABC News. The Final Hours, a special primetime Thursday.
Tomorrow night, Ted Koppel and I will host a special edition of Primetime Live, The Final Hours, an extraordinary look at Mikhail Gorbachev's last days in office, beginning at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Ted joins us again from Moscow. Ted, in that brief clip we saw at the top of the broadcast, Gorbachev admitted mistakes were made. In your conversations with him, did he give you any idea of what he thinks those mistakes were?
Well, I think perhaps he feels that he did not move quickly enough to implement some of the reforms that were ultimately forced upon him. Gorbachev is a man, you must remember, who to this very day speaks with some regret of the breakup of the Soviet Union. Even at this very moment, he does not think that was a good idea, and I must tell you, some of his closest aides, with whom I've also spoken over the past few days, are much blunter than Gorbachev has been. They think it has the potential of being a disaster. So in one sense, what Gorbachev did, I guess he would do again, and that is try to delay, forestall the breakup of the Soviet Union. But he also recognizes that if he had moved a little more quickly in making some of the reforms that have now been implemented here in the Soviet Union, he might still be president of the country today.
Well, Gorbachev explains, as I understand it, that he did not move quicker because he could not. He had to placate the right wing. He had to do a balancing act. Did he discuss that with you?
Well, he did not, although I'm sure his reference there is, in a sense, self-explanatory. It was only last August, after all, that he was briefly overthrown by a coup of right-wingers who were afraid of precisely the kind of thing that Gorbachev was trying to prevent.
Ted, your point that you made earlier, though, I think also is on display last August. At the end of that coup, Gorbachev was still trying to preserve the Communist Party. He was a reformer, certainly, but at least until that point, his reforms were aimed at preserving the power of the very party that he'd served all his life.
I think you're absolutely right, Sam. If one thing can be said of Mikhail Gorbachev, it is that he is a humanist. I think he tried to put a human face on communism. I must tell you, having observed him over these last few days, I'm enormously impressed with the man's character, the strength that he has shown. You can imagine these have not been easy days for him. But you are quite correct in your observation, and that is throughout, Mikhail Gorbachev has been and is to this day a dedicated communist.
Did you get any impression that Gorbachev might be willing to concede in retrospect that he personally stayed too long? As you know, there's a lot of conjecture and a lot of discussion from many quarters that, in fact, he should have resigned months, if not years ago.
Well, I suspect you're right, Sam, but let me tell you what I think is behind that. Even though Mikhail Gorbachev has been publicly very gracious in the comments that he has made about the kind of cooperation that Boris Yeltsin and his government can expect from him, that is Mikhail Gorbachev, the fact of the matter, again, is, and I refer back to conversations with members of his staff who privately are much blunter than Gorbachev has been in public, they're not crazy about Yeltsin. They don't like him, they don't like the people around him, they don't like what they consider to be the shabby way that Mikhail Gorbachev has been forced out of office. So I think there may have been a certain stubbornness at play here, where Gorbachev was digging his heels in and saying, in effect, I'm damned if you're going to push me out of office. But of course, as we all know, these days Yeltsin has the power.
Well, there's a terrible irony here, isn't there? Gorbachev and Yeltsin were once great friends, pals, and then Gorbachev engineered Yeltsin's removal from the power structure of the Communist Party. And now the man that he cast down has come back and bested him. That must have been a terrible blow to him.
Well, I'm sure it was, Sam. There was a time, I must tell you, until not too long ago, when I thought that Gorbachev and Yeltsin needed each other so badly that neither one could really do without the other. To a certain degree, that may even still be true. And while I've been harping for a couple of moments there on the hard feelings that exist between the two men and certainly between their two staffs, I must also point out something that is truly historic in this country. And that is, this is the first time in many, many, many years that a leader has not been removed either because he died or because he fell from grace and was thrown into jail or killed or was sent into exile in disgrace.
Ted, let's look ahead to what is going to happen under Yeltsin and what Gorbachev's future may be. And we'll do that when we continue our discussion in just a moment.
Hi, I'm John Madden with some of America's Olympic hopefuls announcing Chrysler Plymouth's Drive for the Gold holiday clearance. That means a donation to the U.S. Olympic team and big savings to you. Up to $2,000 or low financing. Save on Voyager and Acclaim. Get $1,000 back on Sundance. Get big savings on Imperial and LeBaron sedan. You save and the Olympic team wins. What could be better? See your Chrysler Plymouth dealers now. The holiday clearance ends soon.
For thousands of special values, this is the best week to buy at Sears. For example, right now, this powerful Craftsman 2-horsepower 6-gallon wet dry vac of $59.99 value is only $39.99. But hurry, Sears' best week to buy ends soon.
8 a.m. the day after Christmas is the start of Sears' best week to buy. Save on thousands of great sale items like 30 to 50% on fall and winter outerwear and 30 to 50% on gift wrap, artificial trees, and trim. So get to Sears the day after Christmas for the best week to buy.
Last night, Daddy came home real funny for a while. Then he got real mad and scared Mommy. And she was crying and she said, "Please don't pretend anymore. Get some help."
If you have an alcohol or a drug problem or love someone who does, call the Baptist Drug and Alcohol Recovery Center now, 329-7777.
Please don't pretend anymore. Get some help.
Here are some of the needs in our area. The Community Care Fellowship provides counseling, financial assistance, and noon meals for the homeless. The center needs personal care items and canned food. My Friend's House in Franklin is an emergency shelter for teens, ages 12 through 17. It needs these items. Samaritan Recovery Community is a treatment center for men and women who have alcohol or drug dependency, including those who cannot afford to pay. The center needs personal hygiene items. Call this number to help. Tennessee Department of Human Services needs radios, clothing, sports equipment, fishing tackle, gloves, hats, and winter clothes. Crittenden Services helps pregnant women and adolescents, expectant fathers, and young families. It needs these items. If you're a nonprofit agency with needs, write WKRN at this address or call 269-6765.
Mothers, beware. Could a doctor give you misleading prenatal care? It's more likely than you think. Some valuable lessons for anyone who's pregnant on 2020 Friday.
America's first test tube baby is turning 10. Tomorrow, Elizabeth Carr and her parents. Also treating the common cold, plus Diane Keaton on Good Morning America tomorrow.
Ted Koppel joins us again from Moscow, where it is how cold, Ted? It looks like it may be 20 below.
Let me put it this way, Sam. I think there have been plenty of people who have stood in the shadow of the Kremlin and have trembled for other reasons. I'm not trembling for fear, but it is getting pretty darn cold out here, and there's a fairly brisk wind whipping through. That obviously behind me is St. Basil's Cathedral. The Kremlin is over there, and the Russian winter has begun to set in.
Well, fortunately for Gorbachev, the two of you spent most of the time indoors today. Tell us about the access and what you learned.
Well, actually, we began the day outdoors, and the access has been truly remarkable. I hope that many of our viewers tonight will be able to tune in tomorrow for your broadcast on Primetime Live. Among the things we were able to do this morning, and remember, this was Mikhail Gorbachev's last day in office. He took about half an hour to go on a walking tour with us inside the Kremlin grounds. I think you may find that both visually and substantively interesting. And then what was perhaps the most extraordinary access that certainly I have ever had in a career that spanned 30 years was when we were invited in by Mikhail Gorbachev to videotape his final conversation as the president of the Soviet Union with his old friend George Bush, the president of the United States.
Алло. Да, Джордж, дорогой, приветствую.
This was not just a conversation between two statesmen, but a conversation between two men who truly have become old friends.
Барбару, всю семью.
Well, Ted, what's ahead for Mikhail Gorbachev? He said today that he wasn't going to go hide in the woods. Did he give you any idea what that meant?
Well, what he means is that he is going to be active politically, and I think he is going to be quite a thorn in the side to his old pal Boris Yeltsin, although all the conversation, as I've said, the public conversation is of cooperation. Yeltsin had better be on his mark because Mikhail Gorbachev has not retired in his own mind. Now, he is going to start up a foreign policy institute. He's going to be cooperating in that with his old friend Edvard Shevardnadze, the man who was his foreign minister. He's going to be doing a fair amount of traveling, and I think that you could expect to see him on a very profitable lecture tour at some point or another in the United States, possibly even spending a little bit of time at one or two American universities. But, you know, remember, these have been very hectic days for Mikhail Gorbachev, and those plans have not yet been firmed up.
Well, while he's in the United States making money on the lecture tour, Boris Yeltsin will be back as president of the Russian Republic, having his finger on the nuclear trigger, because Gorbachev today transferred some, 30,000 warheads to Yeltsin's control. Does that worry anyone?
Well, it certainly worries one of Mikhail Gorbachev's closest aides, the man I guess I can best describe him as having been the equivalent of Brent Scowcroft, President Bush's national security advisor. He said he is extremely concerned, not because the nuclear weapons are under the control of Boris Yeltsin, but because there are nuclear weapons spread throughout at least 3 of the republics in this country, and because the potential for ethnic and national conflict is as great as it is. And one other thing that worries people, quite frankly, here, money is so hard to come by, goods are so hard to come by. I'm not sure that anyone is suggesting that nuclear weapons will be sold on the market, But there are an awful lot of nuclear scientists in this country who have a great deal of knowledge that they could sell for hard currency, and a lot of buyers like the Libyans, the Iranians, the Iraqis, who might be in a position to make a deal with them.
Did Gorbachev give you any idea that he thought Washington had not supported him enough? Bush, of course, was a very great supporter in public and had come to like him personally, we're told.
Yeah, no, I did not get any impression of that sort at all. Indeed, in any references that he made to President Bush, and certainly in their conversation, and you'll see that conversation tomorrow night on Primetime Live, you will see that the two of them engaged in the warmest kind of exchange, and I think it's sincere.
Well, speaking of warmth, Ted, why don't you get in out of the cold right now before you turn into an icicle? We want to see you tomorrow night on Primetime Live.
Those are the happiest words I've heard all night, Sam. Thank you.
Goodbye, old friend. I'll be back in a moment with a final note.
E.T. is now available at Sears for just $9.99. That's an extra terrific price for this emotionally touching movie, the most popular ever. And you get a free full-size E.T. poster. That's E.T. and a poster for just $9.99. To enjoy it today, hurry to Sears.
For thousands of great sale items, this is the best week to buy at Sears. Our large capacity heavy-duty Kenmore washer is just $247. The matching dryer just $197. That's our lowest price of the year for the pair. But hurry, Sears' best week to buy ends soon.
An afternoon of playing grandparent can take quite a lot out of you. Magnesium, for example, vitamin B6, vitamin C, and valuable potassium. As nature would have it, replacing all of them is as simple as eating one Chiquita banana. In the case of twins, however, you might want to try two. Chiquita, quite possibly the world's perfect food.
I can't believe it. Can you believe it? I can't believe it.
Next month, this could be you, a brand new millionaire on the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. It's coming soon. Watch for it and send it in.
It pays off. It pays to enter.
8 a.m. the day after Christmas is the start of Sears' best week to buy. Save on thousands of great sale items like 30 to 50% on fall and winter outerwear and 30 to 50% on gift wrap, artificial trees, and trim. So get to Sears the day after Christmas for the best week to buy.
If you're unable to attend the worship of your choice Sunday morning, join Dr. Bill Sherman for Inspiration from the Pulpit of Woodmont Baptist Church, live at 10:30 on Channel 2.
In today's busy world, you need more. That's why Channel 2 News Dayside is on your side. Get the latest news and weather, plus medical news, consumer tips, delicious recipes, news from Hollywood, ways to fight crime, and more. Join Ann Holt and Rick Mitchell. Weekdays at 12:30 for Channel 2 News Dayside. On your side.
Another reminder, tomorrow night, an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at Mikhail Gorbachev's final days in office on a special edition of Primetime Live, The Final Hours, beginning at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 Central. That's our report for tonight. I'm Sam Donaldson in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been ABC News Nightline. If you wish a video cassette version of Nightline, the cost is $14.98, plus $3.95 shipping and handling. If you wish a printed transcript of this or any Nightline broadcast, please send $4 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Robin, Kevin, Michael,
The
Madonna,
biggest.
Liz, Garth, Mariah,
The brightest.
Macaulay, Billy, Jody, Anthony, Demi,
The
Jason,
freshest.
Luke, Spike, Julia, Bert,
The
Natalie,
finest.
Roseanne, Arnold, and Dennis.
Join host Dennis Miller for Entertainers 91, the top 20 of the year. Thursday at 8, 7 Central.
We're just nice girls who like to talk on the phone. We're waiting to talk to you now. The best talk line. All we want to do is talk to you. 1-900-407-TALK. $3.95 a minute. Adults only, please.
Hi, I'm Jerry Sutton, pastor of Two Rivers Baptist Church, and I want to give you a special invitation to join us at 9:30 on Channel 2. We live in a world where families seem to be torn apart on every hand. The moral fiber of our country seems to be disintegrating before us. And when we meet here on Sunday mornings, we talk about solutions and not just the problems. If you can't join us here in person, let me encourage you to join us on Channel 2 at 9:30 on Sunday mornings. We'd love to have you with us.
Holiday memories.
I have a lot of wonderful Christmas memories, but one really does stand out. It was Christmas 2 years ago. That's when my son Evan was born.